Hey, what's up, you guys? Justin with Vanguard Vlogs, coming to you with the long and awaited and anticipated Dungeon World Buddyfight deck profile. I'm pulling that down a little bit here. There we go. Okay, so Dungeon World was introduced in obviously the Buddyfight, the third booster, which is the Drum's Adventure, which introduced all the different versions of Drum, most importantly, to me, the Dungeon World version. And I'll just open up by showing you this is the SP Brave Drum from the Dungeon World. Now, the main focus in my build of this deck is holding your opponent off until you can perform a massive OTK. And the main two forms of doing that are heavy link attacks and a lot of penetrate. So from the bottom to the top. Bottom to top, top. Okay, so we have Dead End Crush. Dead End Crush, which comes in the trial deck. I run 4 of it. Pay 2 gauge. If you have you can only cast this card if your opponent has 3 life or less. You have to have an adventurer and a weapon on the field. And deal 3 damage to your opponent. Can't be nullified or reduced. So it's just like a Gargantuan Punisher with more specific circumstances. Then over here we have 4 of the best weapon in the game. Brave Equipment Glory Seeker. I got 2 SPs, 2 normal double R ones. 5,000 power, 3 critical, and its effect is if your life is reduced to 0, you check the top card of your deck. If it's a spell, you gain 3 life. Then here, actually let's go spells first. So I'll start with the least useful spell. This is Dungeon Explosion. I run 3 of this. It combos perfectly with Magical Fortress, Ornstein, and Dark Lord Gengar. It's pay 2 gauge or pay 3 gauge and 2 life. Destroy a monster in the field. The reason it's so good and so worth keeping in here is that you can use it as a counter. So basically, your opponent attacks, counter with everything. Speaking of good counters, Pillar of Fire. Pay 1 gauge, destroy a monster in the field with 6,000 or less defense. Probably the best counter in the game. Then over here we have Continue, which is pay 1 gauge, pull a size 2 or less adventurer and a size 2 or less dungeon enemy from the drop zone. Call them by paying their call cost. This is just a fantastic card. I run 4 of this as well. And it works really well because pretty much all the cards I run in here, like I run 1 size 3 and it's Gagnar, and the rest of them are size 1 or 2 adventurers and then size 0 dungeon enemies that I blow through really quickly. So it's good to get them back really easily. Divine Protection of Shalsana. This is their version of just a green dragon shield, except that it costs 1 gauge. And over here we have a really good card, Dangerous Fuse. This is kind of a gimmicky card, but it is absolutely a staple card. The way that it works is you pick the top 2 cards of your deck, you show your opponent one of them, you shuffle them, and then your opponent picks one. If he or she picks the one that you showed them, they go to your hand. If he or she picks the other one, it goes to your gauge. So it's a really good card in any situation. Every time you draw it, automatically use it. Run 3 Fate Skeletons, which is just a 3/1/3 size 0 dungeon enemy. 3 Mamasheba Cobalts, which are 1/2/2 dungeon enemies. Then for the monster lineup, as far as like the adventurers go, I run 3 Missile Magician Attic, who whenever you link attack with her, your opponent automatically takes 1 damage. It doesn't matter if the link attack goes through or is negated. Blah blah blah. It happens before you resolve the battle. Then we have 4 Dancing Magician Tetsuya. When you link attack with him and another adventurer, that adventurer gains double attack during that attack phase, so he can attack again. Fantastic card. Okay, and the main triple R. This is, I think this is the only. Well, is Gagnar triple R? No, Gagnar is. Gagnar's triple R. So this is the main triple R that I run. Dragon Blade wielding Sheila Vamna. She's a 2/1/2, which seems really weak, but if you have a dungeon enemy on the field, she gains 2 crit, and if you have another adventurer, she gains penetrate. So if you have another adventurer and her, she's just OP. She's just super OP. Oh, and the one thing I forgot to mention, Brave Equipment Glory Seeker counts as an adventurer in his little, oh god, is that going to go through? Yeah, there you go. You can kind of see it. It says adventurer / armor, or / weapon. Then over here for the size 2s, we have Brave Drum. He's actually a single rare, minus the SP, but I found 4 of like the middle pack hollow ones of him, which are absolutely beautiful. he's my favorite card in the set. That's why I run him as my buddy. Pay 1 gauge, put the top card of your deck in this card's soul. His gimmick is that when you link attack with him, he's the junk drill, which means you play rock, paper, scissors with your opponent, and if you win, he gains penetrate, which with that 3 crit is nothing to sneeze at. Then over here, I run 3 Magician Fortress Orange Kleins. Basically because he's the only person with 5k defense. He counts as a Dungeon Lord and an Adventurer, which means you can use the spell, the Dungeon Explosion with him, and you can bring him back with Continue. But like as a adventurer, not as a dungeon enemy. And his ability allows you to take a dungeon enemy and an adventurer, put them at the bottom of your deck, draw a card, and engage a card. So he's just a really good kind of stall card, like to get you to a position where you can be. And finally, we have Demon Lord Gagnar. Demon Lord Gagnar is just a big board wipe. Here's an SP of him and a normal one. He is 9/4/6 with a lifelink of 2, call cost of only 2 gauge, and when you call him, you shuffle your entire gauge minus what you paid for him back into your deck, and then you put 3 cards from top of your deck into your gauge. So he's a fantastic opener, 1, because he's 4 critical, and then he's just a good he's a good board wipe, especially because he combos with Dungeon Explosion. He's good to keep on field. So yeah, that's basically the deck. And honestly, like 9 times out of 10, I'm winning with just 1 turn, just big swing attack. What you go for usually is a Glory Seeker, a Tetsuya, a Sheila, and then a 0. And then you link attack, go, 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 deal like 6 or 7 damage. You have to deal 7 damage. You deal 7 damage, preferably, and then you go Dead End Crush, win the game. It's a very simple deck that has a ton of utility. All the spells in it, like there's no wasted spell slots. There's no like run 8 Dragon Shields when you're on the defensive. And the problem with that is I do that in my Jackknife deck, but then when you're on the offensive, they're completely useless. You need them more about. This deck, it's really perfectly balanced. It's a really great deck. Thumbs up if you like it. Thumbs down if you're stupid, because it's awesome. The Buddyfight National Champion used Dungeon World, and his build is pretty similar. There's a few differences that I don't agree with. In my locals, I do very, very well with this deck. I'm very, very happy to share it with you here on Vanguard Vlogs. Like, comment, subscribe.